The one other thing that I want to introduce today is how to simplify rational expressions. Again, I'll go through this in more detail tomorrow. I just wanted enough that you can get started on homework if you finish with the quiz. All right, simplifying rational expressions takes 2 steps. They're very basic. You guys have done these before, I'm guessing. All right, so let's take a look at these steps with regard to an example. All right, step 1, anytime you need to simplify or reduce a fraction, the way that you do it, you'll factor the numerator and denominator completely. Okay, so you're going to do this independent of one another. So what you have to understand, one of the common mistakes made in simplifying fractions is to think that this -3 and this -3 can cancel. And that doesn't happen in the first step. The first step has to be factor your expressions. You can't cancel anything until after the factoring occurs. So if we look at this, this fraction, in the numerator we can remove a common factor of 3, leaving a 2x minus 1. And in our denominator, we can treat this, again, either as trial and error, reverse FOIL, or rewrite the middle term. I'm going to rewrite the middle term here just as a review for the quiz you're going to take here in a moment. But if we take our leading coefficient times our constant, what 2 factors of -12 have a total sum of this middle term plus 4? You have a plus 6 and a minus 2. So if we rewrite our middle term as that sum, drop the first and last terms down, and then factor by grouping. In this first pair of terms, we can remove a 2x, leaving a 2x minus 1. In the second pair of terms, we can remove a positive 3, again leaving a 2x minus 1. And so that common binomial factor comes out, and then the remaining factors of 2x and positive 3 are going to form the terms of our other binomial. So we're able to identify the factored form of our denominator as well. Okay, once you perform those steps, you factor completely. What you can then do is cancel any common factors. Okay, and so canceling common factors here, the 2x minus 1's cancel, and we're left with the reduced form of 3 over 2x plus 3. This section differs from what you're probably used to. Okay, so this is one of those other things that's a little bit different than what you've done in the past. If I ask you to include the domain restrictions, most of you, what you've been exposed to is you would write your answer 3 over 2x plus 3, x not equal to -3/2, correct? So x cannot be -3/2. Okay? Is that apparent in this simplified form? Yeah. Okay. If there's a domain restriction that's apparent in the simplified form, you don't need to include it. What you need to include are the domain restrictions that are not apparent in that simplified form. So if we look at the original problem, in this factored form, we also saw that x couldn't be what value? What value of x would have given us division by 0 here? The value of 1/2, right? So we know that x can't be 1/2 and it can't be -3/2. The -3/2 is shown in that simplified form. But what's not shown, what got canceled out in the process of reducing or simplifying, is that x can't be 1/2 either. So when I ask you to answer these questions, you're going to have 2 parts to every question. You're going to have this reduced form part, and then right below it, you're going to have a part where I'll specify domain restrictions. Okay, when you enter your domain restrictions, you need to enter only the domain restrictions that are not shown in the simplified form. So here, your domain restriction is x not equal to, again, the equal/equal is what we'll use to designate that. And then any factors that get canceled from the denominator during the simplifying process that are no longer apparent in the simplified form are what you'll put in your domain restrictions. Okay, now, is it true that x can't be -3/2? Yes. Is it true that x can't be 1/2? Yes, but only this one is not shown or not apparent in that simplified form. Okay. So again, be very careful with that. I'll emphasize this again tomorrow when I review these things. Okay, so I want to walk through one more example of it and then have you guys do the sample problems for this, because I want to point something out regarding this problem. Anytime you simplify, we talked about what the steps were. The steps were to factor completely and then to cancel common factors. Okay, so when you're looking to follow these steps, part of factoring completely, I want you guys to get into the habit of rewriting all your factors with your in standard form. So x is first, so 3 minus x is not written in standard form. So when you factor completely, I also want you to rewrite it so that all your factors have positive leading coefficients. Okay, so when you're looking at this, we have to reorder our terms, and we want to factor out the negative from x. So we take out the negative, this becomes a positive x, and the 3 becomes a negative 3. So here's the numerator with a negative factored out of it and rewritten in standard form. Okay, what common factor can we remove from the denominator? 2x, and that also leaves x minus 3. Once we get to this step, we can now cancel our common factors, which is step 2. And when you simplify, you get negative 1 over 2x. Okay, you're going to have two parts to your answers when you submit these. One part is going to be the simplified form, and it's going to be written as 2 fields of a fraction. When you enter your answer, any negatives that exist in the whole problem, negatives in front of fractions can be written in front of the whole thing. They can be written in the numerator. They can also be written in the denominator. Those all mean the same thing. However, when you enter these online, I need you to put the negatives, any negatives, up in the numerator. Okay, so you would enter negative 1 in the top field, the 2x in the lower field. And then below this, there's going to be a third field that'll say domain restrictions. Okay, remember, the domain restrictions that I want you to enter here are additional domain restrictions. Okay, the ones that are not apparent in the simplified form. So when you look at this simplified form, what do you know x can't be? If all you had was the simplified form, you know x can't be a 0. Okay, you don't include that one. Okay, I want you to be able to distinguish the domain restrictions that have been canceled or removed in the simplification process versus those that you can observe in the simplified form. So when you look at the factored form and the canceling that occurred, what common factors have been removed? The x minus 3 was removed, and what value of x would have given us division by 0 here? So you have to say x not equal to 3. Only include the factors that get canceled from the denominator in the simplifying process. Okay? If you have more than one factor, please write them from the lowest to the highest, separated by commas, no spaces.